Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have a special interview with Melissa Romford, PhD in clinical psychology at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. How are you today, Melissa?
I'm good.
So, today I want to ask you a few questions about perception and reality. Can we do that?
Okay, sounds good.
Question 1. Can you give me a concise explanation as to why depression can alter one's own perception of the environment around oneself?
Much of this remains somewhat of an open question as to exactly why or how depression affects our perception of things, but a few interesting thoughts come to mind that might interest you as they relate to your question. Cognitive research has shown that some individuals with depression are more likely to remember words that are negative as compared to non depressed individuals. This negative bias, or some say the positive bias, in non depressed individuals can affect how we interpret our world, whether we are likely to notice, perceive, or remember negative social information, for instance. There is evidence that individuals with depression have a less positive bias when it comes to thoughts about themselves, others, or the future. These cognitive bias can affect how we interpret all kinds of information. This type of research is a big part of the cognitive behavioral therapy approach to understanding and treating depression, which you may remember from our class.
That's interesting. Question 2. How can alterations within our senses change our perception? Are there differences among senses common among different individuals?
I direct you to what we covered in our class on signal direct detection theory and the relationship between sensation and perception. We all have different sensory thresholds, and our sensory processing can be affected by those physiological thresholds, and our sensory processing and factors like the environment we are in, if we are affected by any factors like fatigue, medication, substances of intoxication, mental state, etc. Our perception is the mental process that adds meaning or interpretation to those incoming sensory signals. So, perception can also be affected by many things, including the sensation itself, but also our experiences, expectations, and so on. Again, you may wish to review the info in your psych text on signal detection theory and other perception factors, learning theory, for instance, which explains how we expect to perceive certain things if it fits with our learned experiences.
Thank you for that. Question 3. How can perception affect our reality?
This seems like a huge and broad question. I guess I will answer this by focusing on just one example. Our perceptions can affect our thoughts and our behaviors, which in turn certainly influences our reality. The first example that came to my mind was in terms of social interactions. If we perceive someone to be rude to us, whether that is objectively true or not, we might behave very differently to that person. We might think, how rude, I can't believe she is such a jerk. Who do they think they are, etc., etc. These thoughts could influence our own social behaviors. We respond with a grimace rather than our usual smile. We have a sharp tone when speaking to him, her. Or even yet when we might make a snarky comment. These factors could result in that other person responding in kind. Therefore, our reality might be that now the person is, in fact, being rude to us. This is just a hypothetical example of one way that our perceptions influence our thoughts, behaviors, which in turn affects very real aspects of our reality.
Thank you so much for all of that, Melissa. And I believe that is all we have time for today. Thank you, folks, for joining us, and thank you, Melissa, for answering our questions.
Thank you.